Hello, hello.
Hello again.
Welcome back to Hold My Pump.
Oh, we are recording in the same day as the last episode, so
We
if you see
are.
Oliver running around, it be like that sometimes.
Same deal.
If I have to breastfeed or Kyle, that you are not Kyle. If Cheyenne has to feed Bubba, that's how it be, all right?
Shit happens. All right. Well, so our last episode, we actually talked in depth about your deliveries.
Or
this
delivery.
One, yeah,
Singular.
Delivery, the first one. This one is going to be mine and Theodore.
Yes.
So
hopefully if we can fit it.
Yeah, we have Bubba and Theodore in this episode. So we're going to start with mine.
Mm-hmm.
So Bubba was born on October 29th. He is my first and only child.
Yes.
We kind of touched in the first episode on the fact that I absolutely hated being pregnant.
Yeah.
I was sick. I literally, TMI, I accidentally may or may not have shit on my bathroom floor.
It be like
It happens.
that. And you know what? I know another person that's done that too. So you are not alone.
Constipation, nausea, pain, whole nine. So I actually touched on the fact that by or around 36 weeks, my nurse practitioner and I had actually already talked about the fact that I was done. I was done with the pregnancy. I love my son. I do in some ways miss being pregnant. That's ultimately the closest I will ever be.
I just liked having a reason to be fat.
That too.
Because now I just have
whatever the fuck I want.
Now I just have a pudge for no damn reason.
I had in a singular day.
Popsicles. Remember how many popsicles we used to eat?
Oh God.
We would be on the phone and eat 4 popsicles
It was
together.
Wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. But yeah, so by 36 weeks, we had literally already talked about the fact that I'm done. And wholeheartedly, if they would have let me do an elective induction, I would have done it, hands down.
Yeah.
But there was no need, and I was healthy, and he was healthy. So I based off of my delivery and what I know now, I'm glad that that wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
So 37 weeks rolls around. And she's like, hey, your next appointment, you look great. She was like, I know you're miserable, but you look great. Baby looks great. Everything's healthy. She was like, next week, if you still want, we'll do your membrane sweep. So I think 36 weeks, I was already like a centimeter dilated. And like 90% effaced or something like that. So I was kind of like in that direction, but my Braxton Hicks had been pretty horrible my entire last trimester. So I was hoping that something was happening.
Yeah.
And then 37 weeks rolls around. I think I was like 2 centimeters, like 95% effaced or something like that. Like I was getting up there.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, I'm having this baby early. I'm ready. I'm done.
You did.
And I was like fully convinced that I was going to have him by 37, 38 weeks.
No, Oliver.
Ultimately, that did not happen. I did not have him by 38 weeks, but I did have him
during that week.
Around there. So 38-week appointment rolls around. I am stoked. Like, took the day off of work. Yeah. Adam came with me. I made sure it was the day that he was off. Because, we also discussed he's a firefighter, so.
He do be working.
He do be working a lot.
A lot.
Love him to death. And he was there for everything I needed him to be there for. And so 38 weeks rolls around. I go into my appointment, and the nurse that was doing my workup, she was asking me, she was like, how do you feel? And I remember looking this woman in the eye, and I said, I feel like shit. I'm done. I'm done with this pregnancy. I want him out. I'm little. He's long. I'm done.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, well, I know you had already talked to the NP about doing a membrane sweep. And I looked at her and I was like, sweep whatever the fuck you want. I was like, stick your fingers wherever you want. Get this fucking kid out of me. I'm done.
Yeah.
And I said, go ahead. By all means. Love it. I said, her and I already talked about it in depth. She knew 2 weeks ago. I was ready for it. I am good to go. At that point, I literally had heard so many horror stories about membrane sweeps, and I did not care. I simply did not give a shit. I was like, get him out. I do not care how you have to do it. I don't care. Get him out.
Yeah.
So, and up to that point, I had already been curb walking. I was turning
Yeah.
water. Like, I was literally bouncing on a ball every fucking night. I was done. I was ready. I was trying my hardest to get this kid out before 38 weeks. It did not happen. Anywho, so we go in, and wholeheartedly, like, it was painful. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not going to lie and say, oh my God, it was so easy. Like,
Right.
It was not.
It didn't live up to its expectations.
No, it was not excruciatingly painful like I had heard. It wasn't comfortable. Now, mind you, I was like maybe a loose 2 centimeters. They want you to be further than that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like maybe a 2.
Like a loose 1.
Yeah, a loose 1, yes. So they would really prefer you to be further than that because they would rather get as many fingers in there as possible. So for those of you who also do not know or have not had it done, so a membrane sweep, they literally stick their fingers in your cervix, hook the end of their fingers, and sweep around the entirety of your cervix where the baby's head would technically be sitting.
I think I read or heard on probably TikTok, because I learn everything on TikTok, that like separating the sac from the cervix sends hormones saying that it's time.
It moves everything along. So literally she does my cervical check, and she was like, you're maybe a 2. And I was like, try again. Do it again.
Check again. I need you to get back the fuck in there and
have smaller fingers.
Use
maybe
3 fingers. I don't care. Time.
Check again.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're maybe a 2. And I was like, okay, that's great. So what are our options? Because I want him the fuck out of me. And she looked at me and she said, give me a second. And I was like,
hey, can do.
So she has her finger in my cervix, and she said, take your knuckles, stick them under your butt. And I lifted my hips and shoved my knuckles under my butt, and she literally stuck her finger in my cervix, hooked, and before I knew it, she looked at me and she said, I think I can do it with 1. And I was like, do whatever you need to do. And she was like, got you. Before I knew it, she had every last one of my membranes swept, let me tell you. And it was
all those membranes be swept, bitch.
They be sweeping. And I felt it. Like, it was not, cervical checks are not comfortable to begin with. They're like that is the one time I will say it's a lot of pressure mixed with pain.
Yeah.
That's the one time I will say they're pretty honest about the pressure side of it. Like, it's pressure. That's not a lie.
That's how my cervical checks are.
Yeah. So it was a lot of pressure, and then it was pain. There was a little bit of pain in there, but I also knew that it's not supposed to happen with just 1 finger. Right. And I will say I did give her the okay to go ahead and do it with 1 finger because I was ready. I just wanted it done. And it worked. I mean, she told me she was like, I don't know how that worked. It shouldn't work like that, but she was like,
somehow I made it happen.
She was like, I did it. Like, your membranes were swept with 1 finger at maybe a 2 centimeter dilation at this point.
That's crazy.
So I was like, okay, sick. Love that for me. So she gets done and she like takes her gloves and everything off, and she was like, okay, so
sorry,
you
my
can
feet
go
are
ahead.
just like in your
Oh,
face.
you're good.
Here, we'll just
cover them up. Just give them a good old covering over here. So she was like, you did absolutely phenomenal. She was like, with any luck, you'll have the baby within the next 2 days. So she's giving me the lowdown, like, okay, it could be 24 hours, it could be 48 hours. It may not work
at all.
And that's the risk that you assume with a membrane sweep is there is a chance that you're going to go through that and it's not going to help.
Yep.
So for anybody who knew me, I was so anxious and so depressed and tired and sore at the end of my pregnancy. So the idea of it not working
terrified you.
Was horrible for me. Like, I was mentally exhausted. But I was just ready. I was like, if this could help, I want it to.
Yeah.
I just want to get it over with. So I sit up and she's like, you're going to bleed, you're going to cramp. That's normal. But she was like, these are the signs to really look for to tell if you're going into labor or not. Everybody and their fucking mother is going to tell you as a new mom, as a pregnant woman for the very first time.
The mic is starting to tip down.
Oh, shit. Hopefully you guys can still hear me.
I'll make it louder.
Everybody's going to tell you, you know when you're going into labor. You don't fucking know.
You have no idea.
You have absolutely no idea. I did not know. So.
Shit, I didn't know until.
No. So that night.
You'll hear.
That night, I was super crampy. I was bleeding a little bit. Like, it was just spotting. It's not like I was gushing blood. And the week prior, I had already lost my membranes. So I was, my mucus plug. So I was kind of just like, okay, whatever. Mind you, I lost it in like chunks. It wasn't like I lost the whole thing all at once. Like, it was just like little bits and pieces.
I've never lost one except when the fully balloon.
Yeah.
But I feel like that doesn't count.
I was like, okay, well, I'm ready. And hopefully he is now and everything can start moving. So that night I was just a little crampy. I was a little tired. And I thought it was like, okay, whatever. Like, it's to be expected. You know, I knew what to kind of expect symptoms-wise after a membrane sweep. So that night I was trying to stay as active as possible. I knew that if there was any chance this is going to work, it was going to be because I stayed active. So I hydrated. I kept moving. I just wanted to, like, move around as much as I could. And that night's kind of a blur for me because in reality it wasn't really all that important to me, I guess. Which that day was, but that night was kind of just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So the next morning rolls around and I want to say Adam was going into work that day. So Adam leaves the house at like 6:45, 7. So I was kind of having some contractions. That morning I had woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I'm crampy. Like, this is more than just a little crampy. And I was actually going to go back to work that day. And I texted the supervisor for that day and I was like, hey, I'm not coming into work.
Yeah.
There is a very good chance I'm having a baby. I was like, I can't, there's no way I'm going to be able to come into work like this.
Yeah.
So she was just like, okay, good luck. Like, have a baby, enjoy it. Let us know. And I was like, okay, sick. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I really don't think I got all that much sleep that night anyways. Mix of anxiety and kind of like the anticipation and then a little bit of the cramping. So it's kind of like on and off sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, this pain feels different. So it wasn't like a period cramp. It was a little bit more intense and it was all over my belly and into my back. And that's, I think, when I really knew, like, oh shit, this might actually be labor.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, let me time them. And I think part of me was really like anticipating the timing of it. So I'm like timing and I'm timing and I'm timing and it was like lining up perfectly. And I told Adam.
It's also like kind of exciting to like be able to time, because like that means something's happening.
Yes.
Like that's exciting.
So I think part of me in my head was like, if I time them, it'll happen. So it was just me being me. You know? So I went through all that and Adam had left for work. I told him, I was like, go ahead and go. If anything happens, I'll call you. He makes it. No sooner did he make it to work and I called him and I was like, I think you need to come back. And he was like, well, what the fuck? And I was like, I'm going to keep kind of tabs on it. But I was like, I really think I'm in labor. And he was like, okay. So I'm timing it. And I'm calling my mom. I'm calling, he called his mom. And we're asking everybody. And they're like, it really kind of sounds like you're in labor. And I was like, okay. So my mom was like, obviously, if anything crazy happens, you need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I told her, and I think I told you too, I was like, I'm not bent over in pain. I'm not in excruciating pain. So in my head, and I even told you this, I was like, part of me feels like it's not legit because I'm not in excruciating pain.
That's exactly what happened with me with Theodore.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm not in excruciating pain. Like 10 o'clock or so rolls around and Adam makes it home from work and we go into the hospital and I get checked and they were like, yeah, you're a 3, but you're not in active labor. They were like, you're in early labor. And the doctor at the hospital, I actually work with the doctors that work at the hospital. So he was super sweet and he was like, hey, listen, like, you're in early labor. He was like, the biggest thing I can tell you is he was like, you know how you're walking, talking, you're breathing normal, you're, you know, kind of like laughing and joking. And I was like, yeah. He was like, that's not what active labor looks like. He was like, when you get to the point.
Mine did.
Well, yours is a whole different situation. But he was like, normally, that's not what active labor looks like. He's like, you're a first-time mom. He goes, the chances are that since you're already in this amount of pain and this kind of discomfort, he was like, you're not going to be able to walk through them. You're going to be bent over. More than not, you're going to be bent over in pain. Yeah. He was like, and it's going to be hard to talk and to act normal through them. So he was like, all I can tell you is go home, drink lots of fluid, do whatever you feel like you need to do to get baby out.
Yeah.
Come back when either your water breaks or you can't talk and walk through your contractions. So then he gives us that whole spiel. We're in the room with the nurse, and the nurse turns around and she goes, all I can tell you is go home and have sex. And I was like,
yeah.
I really, in my head, I was like,
I'll get him.
Do you want me to stop it?
No, I'll get him. You just keep talking and I'll just edit out the stuff that's too much.
Well, so I was like, part of me really in my head when I was pregnant was like, oh, okay, I could do that. Like, have sex when I'm in labor. No, because every part of me was like, I don't want to do that. So we get home from the hospital and Adam goes back to work because, I mean, there's not really much he can do for me at home.
This is Bubba.
Hi, Bubba's. Hi, sweet face. Okay, so if you guys hear any like sloshing, it's my child. So Adam goes back to work and I'm at home and he goes back like later that evening because we got out of the hospital a little bit later. And I'm stressed. Like, God bless Adam because I was being a bitch.
Yeah,
like,
you said that.
I was not nice. And it wasn't his fault, but I was stressed and I was in pain and I was exhausted and I wanted him out.
Everything is worse when you're in pain.
Yeah, and being told, no, you're not in labor.
It's very discouraging.
When all you want to do is just
have your baby.
Just like have your baby in your arms and to relieve the pain that you're in.
Yeah.
And so Adam and I kind of like not really got into an argument, but like there was tension a little bit. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. And so, in less words than I want to use, I basically was like, if you want to go back to work, just go back to work. Like, there's nothing you can do for me at this point. Like, just go.
Yeah.
So he goes back to work, and we talked that night, and obviously I was like, listen, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going through a lot right now, as you can tell. And he was like, it's okay. Like, well,
I'm literally about to birth your child.
Yeah. So he was like, it's okay. It's going to happen. Just kind of try to relax a little bit, you know? My contractions actually stopped that night. And I was mentally done. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. I'm never going to have this kid. He's never going to come out. Like, he's going to be in there forever. Which I know is unrealistic, but that's how you feel, you know? So my contractions stopped that night. And I literally, so they stopped. I kind of took a nap. I woke up. I still wasn't having any. And I was like, fuck this. So I went and I was bouncing on a ball. And I was going out and walking up and down the stairs at the apartments. And I was like doing lunges on the stairs. And when I tell you, I grabbed that damn ball.
This is Theodore.
Say hi to the babies. I grabbed that ball. And I put it right on the bed. And I was like doing side lunges on the bed with the ball, like as deep as I possibly could. I was in and out of the shower. Yeah. And about 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to like the worst freaking contraction that I could have had to wake up to. I woke up to like a major contraction and I was like, this is what he was talking about. I was like, this is fucking different. This is not just, oh, it's crampy. Oh, it just doesn't like, you know, it doesn't feel right. No, this was like intense pain, pressure, whole nine. So I woke up to like this massive contraction and I was like, this is fucking different. This is special. Great. Love this for me.
Yeah.
So I actually remember, and I texted Adam, and I said, oh, by the way, we're having a baby today.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he was like, huh? And I told him, I said, Yeah, I'm having like legit contractions right now.
Yeah.
And his instinct was to be obviously like, hey, do you want me to come home? And I was like, absolutely not. I am okay. I'm good. I can handle it.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah. I was like, I'm still functioning. It's just getting a little bit harder at this point. So I was like, stay at work. You get off at 8. There's no need to come home.
Yeah.
So, and I actually figured out what time my water broke. I literally have a video of it. So I was in and out of the shower, and I was literally contracting so hard at this point that I was peeing myself every time I had a contraction. So I'm drinking fluids. I'm literally just peeing it all back out. So I'm drinking water, peeing. I'm in and out of the shower. I'm on a ball. I'm bouncing up and down on the ball. I'm trying to move around as much as I can. I'm texting Adam, hey, by the way, I'm in labor, no big deal.
Yeah.
And then 6:30 rolls around, and mind you, the contractions are like close.
Mm-hmm.
They were not fun, but I could still walk and talk. So I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to the hospital. I can still walk and talk, even though they're close. Theoretically, timing could be different for everybody. So I'm like, okay. I get in the shower, and I'm like, why is this shit getting worse? Like, I knew it would get bad. I knew it would get worse, but it got worse on a different level. Like, it got more intense really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Same with Theodore.
So I'm like, I can't even remember who I was messaging. I think it might have been Adam. And he was like, did your water break? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, how the fuck do you not know? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm peeing myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm literally peeing everywhere. I'm like, I've got towels all over the apartment at this point because I'm like peeing everywhere. So he was like, okay. Well, he was like, you didn't hear a gush or anything? And I was like, no. I was like, I was either on the toilet or I was in the shower. So it's not really fair to be like, oh, there might have been a gush,
Right.
So 6:30 rolls around. Everything's getting a lot more intense. And I'm like, fuck this. Well, part of me was like, I'm really like concerned at this point that my water had broken and I just didn't realize it.
Right.
So,
because they tell you, for the people that don't know, they tell you as soon as your water breaks, go into the hospital.
Yeah.
Because I think it's 24 hours until they need to like do something.
Yes.
To make the baby come out.
Yeah. So
because of infections
and everything, like literally your amniotic sac is keeping baby safe. So if baby stays in there without it, there's a whole host of things.
If the baby's stressed, they could poop, and then that can cause issues. And it's a whole thing.
There's a lot that goes into the whole like water breaking thing. And it's not like always how it is on TV where it's like this huge gush and automatically like.
Yeah. Well, they say, I think I've heard that like the top of the sac can break and then it trickles out.
So you
or
can
the
trickle,
bottom of it breaks and it gushes.
Yep. So you can trickle, you can gush, you can kind of do what I was doing where like you're peeing anyway, so it's kind of just coming out all at the same time. So I was actually in the shower, and this is what I have a video of. I had an insane freaking contraction. It was like 6:37, I think, in the morning, and I had an insane contraction. And I'm sitting there against the shower, and I have like my head back, and I'm breathing through this contraction, and it hurts like a fucking bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually like took my fingers, so I do not recommend doing this at all. Like, don't fucking do it just because of infection. But I did take my finger, and I literally like just put it like kind of like right on the inside of my vagina, almost like as if to kind of like check, because I knew if it was amniotic fluid, I would kind of almost be able to tell, compared to if it was pee. Like, just for some reason I was like, I kind of like stuck my finger in there. I was like, it feels like a different like consistency.
Slimy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of slimy almost. So I was like, I think my water broke. So I sit like this for another 2 hours because Adam gets off of work at 8 o'clock. So it's 6:37 when I take this video.
You're like, I'm waiting.
He gets off of work at 8. And I told him that. I was like, I'm fucking waiting. I am not going to this hospital unless I'm coming out of there
with a baby
48 hours later with a fucking baby in my hands. I'm not doing it. So he's messaging me and he's like, are you sure you're okay? Are you sure you're okay? I'm on and off FaceTime with him, on and off calling with him. 8 o'clock rolls around. And I'm like, hey, babe. And he's like, yeah. I was like, did you fucking leave yet? And he was like, yep, I'm on the way. I got you. I'm coming home. And knowing him, he was hauling ass.
Right.
So he's like, I'm on my way home. And
probably yelling at everyone on the street.
He was so quiet on the way home.
Really?
Literally fucking silent. He did not talk at all. Like, I think it's because, well, I was having like such bad contractions at that point. For anybody who does not know, when your water breaks, there is no more cushion between
get 10 times
your
worse.
child and the muscles and your pelvis and everything. There's no cushion anymore. So your contractions get worse after your water breaks. So my water had already been broken for at least 2 hours at this point. So I had been contracting for probably 2.5, 3 hours with no cushion. So I'm like, fuck this, bro. This is not fun. I tried like doing the thing where you like kind of like squat. Nope. Was not a fan. So I'm like literally sitting on my butt in the shower, leaning against the shower. The only thing that helped me was hot water on my back. So Adam, it's like 8:15, and the poor man, he's driving as fast as he can to get home, and I'm on the phone on FaceTime, and I had it set up in the bathroom, and I was like timing contractions at one point, and then I stopped because I was like, fuck this, like I'm in labor, I'm done timing them, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I was by myself, so I'm like, I'm trying to breathe through a contraction. It's hard to breathe through a contraction and time at the same time. And I was on the floor, bent like on all fours with my head against the floor of the shower, and all I can remember is screaming, where the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm coming, I'm on my way. So he gets home. I managed to get like underwear or something on me, I can't even remember, sweatpants and a hoodie, and I was like, we need to go. So we're on the way to the hospital, get to the hospital. Of course, at the front desk, they were super sweet, and they all know Adam, so they were all like, okay, we got you, like you were just here yesterday, is everything the same? I was like, yeah. So they were like, all right, let's get you upstairs. Get upstairs, they do my cervical check as they're supposed to. I get in there, and I literally told the nurse, I said, by the way, I want the epidural. And she said, well, we need to check you and make sure first. And I said, by the way, I want the epidural. And she was like,
you better give me that shit as soon as you fucking can.
So we get in there, and they do my cervical check, and she goes, you're at, I think I was at a 3 because they wouldn't have admitted me where I was at. So I was at a 3 still.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm fucking done with this. And I went to cry, and Adam was like, hey, by the way, she thinks her water broke. And I was like, oh yeah. I kind of forgot about that.
Totally forgot about that.
And she was like, well, shit, that kind of changes the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, sick, love that. Can you just like do your swabby thing and like,
let me know.
So she swabs, and she was like, sure as hell, she comes back. She goes, your water broke, so you get to stay. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I was like, I love you so much. So they finally get me into a room. My OP, God bless her, she was absolutely phenomenal. They come in, they're like, hey, this is what we can do. She starts talking to me about my options for pain control, so I could do the epidural, I could do IV pain meds, whole nine. So what I did not realize when they walked in was they actually came in to tell me that he dropped off the monitor.
Yeah.
So I was like, when they said that, I was like, fuck. And she was like, he's fine now. He's been on for a minute. She was like, he's good. We just can't give you IV pain medications because he has to be on the monitor for a specific amount of time. We have to make sure we can keep him on in order to do that. And I was like, okay. So at that point, I was like, we agreed. I was like, we're just going to go ahead and hold off on pain control for now. I'll do anything I can naturally as long as I can.
Yeah.
So again, in and out of the shower, in and out of the bed, on and off the birthing ball, like whole nine. Adam's, trying to help me the best I can. Poor man, he got in the shower with me. Like, he was great. Like, he stunk though. He actually really needed to take a shower.
We have really, really good partners.
We do. We have very amazing partners.
Why do you keep letting go?
So he was in and out of the shower with me. I think all in all, by the time I got done at the hospital and was discharged, I think I took like 10 showers. Sorry, Carolina, you said definitely wasted all your water. But I was like, but they were hot showers too, so that made me feel better. So the contractions started to get far worse at this point. So I came in at a 3, and that was at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I went from a 3 to a 6 by, like, I think Adam said I got my epidural around 2. But that was good timing. So they had been watching him on the monitor and everything, and even my OB was like, your contractions are so close together. Like, I did not get a break in between my contractions all fucking day. I was exhausted.
Well, yeah, and it's like you're mentally and physically exhausted.
Yeah, it's so tiring. And so by the time I got my epidural, I was on all fucking fours on the bed. My bare ass was out. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, my whole ass was out. Everything was out.
You get to a point where you don't care.
It's full frontal.
You do not give a single.
You do not give a shit about what is out, what people are seeing. Like,
plus they've already seen 8 that day. So like,
yeah, right.
Whatever.
So I was on all fours, and Adam was sitting on like the bed that they have next to my bed. So he's sitting there on like the couch bed convertible thingy, and he's like, I looked at him, and I'm like, I'm laying in the bed at this point. This was before all fours, full frontal happened. And I'm laying in the bed, and I looked at him, and I said, I can't fucking do this anymore. And he turned to me, and this is what I needed in the moment. He's so cute. This is what I needed in the moment. But he looked at me, and he said, you don't have a choice. Like, you have to keep going.
That got said to me in both of my labors.
Yeah. He was like, babe, I love you, but you don't have a fucking choice. Is it funny? He's watching bears. That happens. I'm on all fours. The poor nurse comes in, and she's got a student with her at this point. And she comes in, I'm on all fours. And I was like, oh my God, like I never screamed. Like, I was bitchy, but I never screamed. So I'm kind of proud of myself.
I screamed with Theodore. I didn't scream with Oliver.
Girl, there's 1,000,001 reasons why you scream with Theodore. So the nurse and her student come in, because I had already called them, and I was like, I want the epidural. So mind you, the epidural, it only took the anesthesiologist like 10 minutes to get up to my room. Longest fucking 10 minutes of my life, let me tell you. 6 centimeters without an amniotic sac and pain meds, horrible. Like, I don't know if my pain tolerance is just low, but I was like, fuck this. So the nurse comes in, and she looks at me, and she's like, all right, babe, like, I'm going to need you to turn and sit on the bed. Like, your butt has to be on the bed in order to get the epidural. So I was like, okay. Got my shit together enough to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I turn, I sit down on the bed, and I look at her, and I said, I'm going to be real honest with you right now. I feel like I have to shit. And she was like,
let me check you.
Would you like me to check you before we do the epidural? And I said, yeah, I really would.
Actually, can you just do the epidural real quick?
So I rolled back over onto my back, which was fine. Like, I think keeping me occupied was probably the best thing for me at that moment.
I get it, yeah.
So I roll over, she did my check. She was like, you're like a loose 6. So she was like, you're doing pretty good. And I was like, awesome. Love that. Epidural now. So they told Adam, which him and I didn't necessarily like the fact that he couldn't be in there when I got my epidural.
That's stupid to me. My mom and Kyle were in there with me with Oliver.
We kind of understood, but it was also like, I think the only good part for me was the nurse was super supportive. Yeah. Like, yes, 110%. I would rather have had Adam with me.
Yeah, for sure.
And he would have rather been in there. I think that was hard for him to leave. Like, he was pissed, but I think it was coming from a place of worry and love more so than just, I'm pissed off that I'm not allowed to be in here.
Yeah.
And so the nurse is literally like, I looked at the anesthesiologist, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I'm having really bad fucking contractions, and they're really, 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 really close together. And I was like, they are consistent and they hurt. I was like, I'm just going to.
You don't have a lot of time to work.
Yeah. So the nurse was like, it's all right. I got you. Like, and she bless her. I loved her. I loved her so much. I really wish she would have been there when I had him.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like bent over and she had a hold of my shoulders and she was like pulling my shoulders. And I would tell them, I'd be like, hey, I'm about to have a contraction. Like, I'm going to let you know now. So I would breathe, have a contraction. And I don't know how the fuck I managed to sit there long enough for them to do that. But I did. Proud of myself. Because my contractions weren't just my belly. It was my back too. So I was back laboring.
Ooh.
And
Ouch.
having like normal contractions. So it was just a lot going on at once.
Yeah.
And the anesthesiologist was like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a spinal. We're going to do an epidural. I was like, fucking don't care. Just get it in me. Whatever it is. I don't care.
Shove
just
whatever you're going to shove in places that you're supposed to shove it.
Some good drugs.
Yep.
Okay. So they get done and they got me all taped up and they roll me back over. And the nurse looks over and she said, how you feeling? And I was like, that's some good shit. And she was like, yep, we gave you fentanyl. And I was like, oh, yep, that's not street fentanyl. That's clean shit. That's
the good stuff.
Shit. That is some good, clean fentanyl right there. And it felt great. I was high as a fucking kite. Don't get me wrong. And I looked at the anesthesiologist and I said, you deserve a raise. And he just chuckles to himself. He's like, hee hee. And I was like, you do. You deserve a raise. Love ya. Thank you. Love what you just did there, bud. So he leaves and the nurse and the student are in there. And I looked up. Mind you, at this point, I'm feeling fucking great.
Yeah.
And I looked up and I was like, hey, by the way, I'm really sorry for like my mental breakdown that I was having whenever you walked in. And she goes, you know what? Honestly, you're fine. She said, 99% of the time when I tell someone to get off all fours and sit on their butt, they don't listen to me. She said, so you're doing great. And I was like, love you. So at that point, it was literally like, I think I tortured Adam for like an hour. I was cracked out. Like, well, yeah. Once that fentanyl set in and I couldn't feel anything, I was high. Like, yeah. And I was cracking jokes and I was awful to him and I feel horrible. Like, he even said, he was like, you were a little mean. And I was like, I don't fucking remember any of it. But like, Adam. I'm sorry. Like, I don't remember what I said to you. And I asked him, I was like, it wasn't anything like too terribly bad, right? And he was like, I don't remember what you said, but I remember you being mean. And I was like, okay, sorry. So after that, it was literally like I fell asleep. I woke up. They came in to check me, and they checked me, and she was like, oh, by the way, you're complete. And I was like, sick. Love that. So I got my epidural at 2 o'clock, around-ish. And then I was maybe up for like an hour. So I probably slept for a good 4 hours.
Yeah, because you called me at like 6, 7-ish.
Yep.
Well, no, because he was born at
7:15.
So it was probably 6.
Yeah, so it's probably like 3 hours actually. I got good sleep for about 3 hours. And I remember waking up and I rolled over and I thought Adam was on the bed next to me, like in the convertible bed. And apparently he was not. I guess I was still high. So I like rolled back up, like I sat back up and I looked at the monitor. And then my OB and the nurse came in and they were like, hey, you know, we're just going to check you real quick. We haven't checked you in a while. Seeing how everything was going. And I thought I saw a little like spike on the monitor. And she was like, oh, no, you're fine. It was probably just you moving or something. I was like, all right, whatever. So I was like, okay, go ahead. Check me. I don't care. So she's sitting there and the nurse walks over to my right side and my OB is at my feet checking me. And she goes, you're complete. And I was like, what? And I was like, I look over and the nurse was like, where's your boyfriend? And I was like, he's not over there. And she was like, no. I was like, oh, fuck. So I sat up. I was like, okay, no, he's not there. I don't know. How do you lose a 6'4" human being? I couldn't fucking tell you. I'm high. I don't know what to tell you at this point. So she says I'm complete. And then we were talking about him. And then she was like, I think Adam said he heard us from the bathroom. So he walks out. And I was like, the OB turns around and she goes, hey, you ready to have a baby? And he was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I was like, sick. I pushed for like half an hour. Mm-hmm. So I started at 6:45. He was born at 7:15, which, by the way, I'm so sorry to everybody who was there whenever I delivered him because it was shift change. So really sorry about that. Like, I apologize so deeply. But
like right
I mean,
at
it was
shift change.
Honestly, the only thing I can truly say that was hard was it was a marathon. It literally felt like I was running a marathon.
Yeah.
And the hands down the best thing was like my epidural. God bless it. They did great with it. It helped a lot. Like I needed that to be able to sleep because I had been laboring for probably 24 hours.
Well, days at that point because early labor started before that. Yeah.
So I was tired and I needed that sleep. And then they I mean, even my OB, she did like a trial, like a test push just to kind of practice and make sure I could do it. And she was like, shit, you're doing great. Let's go. And I was like, let's roll. And I literally got to the point where I was like telling them, I was like, hey, I'm about to push, by the way. And they're like, okay, let's go. Let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And half an hour later, I had Bubba's. Guys, to anybody who's actively watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry if it looks like, my child is
Oliver's just like sitting, so
all right, well, that do be it for us, and I think that's it for today.
Yeah, definitely. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram, and we have a Facebook group.
Yep.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or Anchor.
We will be posting Mondays and Fridays.
Yes.
Yep. There may be, on the occasional week, there might be an extra day splattered in there.
Yeah.
For good
all
measure.
of our social media is either Hold My Pump or Hold My Pump Podcast. So, yeah.
And come back for more of the shit show anytime you would love.
Show.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.